So boys and girls, I was telling you today that we're starting to talk about apples this week. And on Friday, we're actually going to have a Zoom class, but part of Zoom, I also sent a link for you to do a virtual field trip, which you can look at anytime and as many times as you want. But that virtual field trip takes us to an apple orchard, okay? So have mommy and daddy look at the lesson plan and you can do a virtual field trip to an apple orchard. Also, if you ever can go on a real field trip, I know Tanner's Orchard is open right now, and you can go to Tanner's and look at different kinds of apples. But today, I'm actually going to read you a story today, and it's called A Day at the Apple Orchard. Now, my daughter, she went to the apple orchard yesterday, and she might have seen some of these things at the apple orchard, okay? So it's a sunny day in early fall, perfect for apple picking. Before we go into the orchard, we learn how apples grow. Now, it has taken many months for the apples to grow and get ripe. Just like all living things, apples need the right amount of rain and sun and also air to be healthy. The life of an apple begins in the springtime. During the winter months, the tree doesn't grow or change. It's in a state of called dormancy. Dormancy means that it is sleeping, so the apple tree is asleep. Now, when warm weather comes, it awakens the tree, and it begins a new life of growth. It's called a life cycle. Leaves will push out from the tiny branches, and tiny buds will start to form. See, there's a little bud, and a little leaf starts to form a little bit, a flower. 5 petals bloom and grow into a beautiful shade of pink or white. So on the apple tree, there will be pink or white flowers that grow. Apple farmers set up beehives in the orchard. When the honey bees land on the apple blooms, it sips up the sweet nectar, and tiny grains of pollen stick to its legs. As the bees fly around from flower to flower to flower, the pollen is carried around and it fertilizes the blooms. This is called pollination. You might see bees during the summertime doing this. As the spring turns into summer, the flower petals will fall off the tree. Now on the branches, ovaries begin to grow. These are going to become apples. See, they're very, very tiny right now. All right, but those are going to turn into apples. All summer long, the apples get bigger and bigger and bigger. As autumn approaches, the apples start to ripen, and they start to turn from green to red. Some types of apples, like Granny Smith apples, they stay green. And others, such as Golden Delicious apples, they will turn yellow. By late summer or early fall, the apples are fully ripened. And now this time of the year is called to harvest. Harvest means to pick the apples. We pick up our baskets and we get ready to go on the tractor ride. The tractor takes us into the orchard. That's where all the trees are. That's what it's called, the orchard. We're picking Empire apples today because they are the ones that are ripe. Before we start, we learn the best way to pick an apple. Instead of pulling an apple off the tree, you must turn the eye, that's the bottom of it, to the sky, and then you gently tug the apple off the branch. We want to make sure that the bud is not damaged for next year. It's time to start picking. So it's almost like you twist the apple. Now, apples bruise easily, so we place them in the basket nice and gently. While we are picking, we see wire guards at the bottom of the trees. We aren't the only one who likes apples. Do you know who also likes apples? Bunny rabbits like apples, and deers like apples. So apple farmers must safeguard their tree from hungry creatures, such as what? rabbits and rodents and some kind of insects. They also like apples. Now our baskets are full now, so it's time to head back to the farm. Now we sample the apples there, crisp and delicious. Next, we see how apple juice and apple cider are made with an old-fashioned hand press. First, the apples are put into the press and the cider comes out from the bottom. You need lots of good muscles to press it down to get the juice to come out. Then we get to taste it. Yum. It's been so much fun learning about the apples. We can't wait to come back again next year. Now, boys and girls, I have a couple things to show you. Now, we're talking about apples, and I wanted to show you a picture about parts of an apple, all right? So if you take an apple, and you're gonna need 3 apples on Friday. You're gonna need to see if you can buy a green apple, a yellow apple, and a red apple. And we're gonna do an apple tasting on Friday during our Zoom class. But if you look at the inside of an apple or the whole apple, there's different parts of an apple. Do you know what this part's called? That's the stem of the apple, okay? Then the outside, the red or green or yellow part, that is called the skin or the peel of an apple. And then if you cut it open, the inside part, kind of the white part, the part that I like to eat, it's really good. It's actually called the flesh of an apple. And then you have the seeds that are in the middle of the apple, and that helps grow more apple trees. And then we also have the very middle part called the core of an apple. Now what I want you to look at is on the very bottom part of your apple, you might see something that kind of looks like a dried up leaf or something. Do you know what that is? That's actually the flower that the apple grew from. Because remember in the story how it had a bloom, a flower blossom? That flower blossom is actually what turns into an apple. Now, do you see the seeds here? Now there's a little trick you can do. You can cut an apple in half, the fat way I call it, not from the stem down, but sideways. If you cut the apple this way across, guess what you're gonna find? Look at that. Do you know what shape that is? What shape is that? That's right, it's a star. So if you have an apple at home, cut it across this way and see if you can find the star in the middle of the apple today. All right? Okay, boys and girls, have fun with your apples. We will see you later.